And welcome back, folks, to episode 53 of the Wet Shavers Roundtable. I am Douglas Smythe from PhoenixArtistsandAccoutrements.com. And with me today, I have Scott Ostermiller, TheCleanShaver.com.
I'm handing out beer.
Keep quiet. I'm not doing my introduction. And next we have Mr. David Gonzalez.
I'm gladly accepting beer.
Where are you from, David?
I'm from California there.
Try to get it on overhead.
StaySharpLimited.com, folks.
On the speaker so we can hear it.
StaySharpLimited.com. Sorry, we were just a little nervous today because this is our brand new platform, and it's been like 30 minutes into more of me having an anxiety attack. And now we're all finally here. And by all of us, I mean, today's going to be a very special show. We have pretty much like one of those where do somethings come from? And today's is where do strops come from? Mommy, where do strops come from? Being the subtitle. And so to show us where these come from, we brought in, once again, Matt Pisarcik from Razor Emporium. We also have Eric and Sean with us demonstrating how to make strops, as well as doing some honing technique as well for the noobs out there who maybe have been thinking about hopping into straight razor shaving, but maybe are a little too shy to ask the right questions. Well, these guys are going to help you help you along with that without asking too many questions. But if you do want to ask questions, you can ask questions down below in the questions box or in the chat room to the right. So so that's just some of the features we all have on this new platform. We also have a poll we're taking, which you can see at the bottom of the screen, and some very special offers today in celebration of this new platform, hoping that it would work out, and it does work. Thank you. And I'd really like to thank Michael Harris for pointing me in the direction of this platform. Thank you, Michael. I know you're watching. So, without any further ado, I'd like to put you in Matt Pisarcik's hands.
Hey, what's going on? Hey, can you guys hear in the back? All right, perfect. Well, welcome to the back end of the Razor Emporium workshop. It's kind of a hot, sweltery day back here. We have a swamp cooler going. We have Eric Engel over here. Eric Engel does all of the sharpening of every straight razor.
Yes. Yes.
He found his twin.
I did.
Yes, everyone who comes in. Eric also works the lobby on Saturdays, and people always say, how can he be a wet shaver? And I'm like, did you look at his head?
Yeah. Okay.
This guy on a straight razor shaves. So, I mean, it's pretty talented to be able to do this.
I just did this morning. It's great.
Yeah. Right. And then also joined, well, I guess I should finish here. So this is Eric's workstation where he does all the sharpening. And we have lots of different stones up here you can see. And the other gentleman who's joining us today is a Mr. Sean Thomas. Sean Thomas came to us as a wet shaver. And he also has a full-time job as a ENT, I believe, at a local hospital, and he comes here about once a week to knock out all of our leather work for us. So we're happy to have him on board as well.
That's awesome.
Nice. Welcome to the show, guys.
Is that Sean?
Sean, yes.
Hey, Sean.
Can they hear us, Matt?
They can. I have you on our overhead PA system, and I'm using this as the microphone.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Excellent. So where do we begin?
Well, I was going to show you Sean's workstation. So this is our 2-ton hydraulic press. So Sean will show you how it works, but this is basically the magic of making strops in mass, is cutting them out, not by hand, but by a pattern over and over again, so that you have the same predictable shapes and not, one person's interpretation of what a strop should be.
Each time, everyone's different, like a fingerprint.
Exactly. So, do you guys want to start on honing or strop making first?
Let's go with the strops.
What would be easier for you guys?
Strops, Sean. All right, Sean's just pouring. I brought in some Blue Moon. It was a hot, sweltery day, so Sean's pouring himself a beer. So, nice. Sean, let me see if I can have you put this on. But I can be a cameraman. But you can talk directly to the guys.
Hi, Sean.
How are you?
Good. It's good to see another bald, bearded brother.
That's right.
Nice. So, what exactly are you going to be showing us, Sean?
Well, I was just going to go over quickly the process I go through in making our strops.
Okay, yeah. Walk us
Every
through.
every piece of leather is different, but I do my best to work with the grain and work with the leather itself to create the best product I can.
Is anybody else getting feedback just now?
A little bit.
I think it was the overhead system. That's
probably it.
Excellent. Okay, let's get into it.
What's the story?
We're just going to go through making one of our strops.
All right, here. While Sean's working on that, I'll put the headphones back in so I can kind of help to do some narration.
Yes, please do. Talk us through the steps.
Yeah, so we try to do a lot of prep work here to get as much of the components cut out in advance as possible, so that when it comes to assembly, it's kind of like Jack in a Box or any kind of good assembly. Try to do some of the things as prep work and then some as real time. If we get a custom order, we'll have to obviously do it in real time. So not only do we make strops for Razor Emporium, but in this drawer here, you'll see there's a bunch of little metal stamps, and these are from other companies that have actually asked us to help them make strops. Like this is for Art of Manliness. So if you've ever seen any of the strops that they sell, this is their logo. We have, like, for instance, Q Brothers. You guys have heard of Q Brothers?
Oh yeah.
So that we make some of their strops as well for them. There's a lot of other companies in here. And I'm always looking if someone ever needs some, then I can help out. There's a company in Texas, Carwin's Shave Shop. But basically, this is the part that actually puts the branding on. It's a copper stamp. But as we'll get to that in a little bit, I wanted to show you the first steps over here that Sean's kind of laying out. So we have already done some of the cutout work. If we get this, after we make one, we can kind of show you how this big cutter works to initially cut the pieces. But what he's going to do now is take these rough components that we have. It looks like a Razor Emporium branded black piece of English bridle here. It's already been cut out. The really neat thing is if you look at our cutting template, let me grab that. So this is it's like a cookie cutter. It's really no different. So this big piece it's clear, so we can actually see right through the leather to make sure we avoid any kind of areas of, too heavy of creases or folds or bite marks in the leather. So this is a gigantic piece of plastic that has a sharp piece of steel blade embedded into it. And at the top here, you're seeing the 3 little holes that actually connect your screws as well. And it's just completely symmetrical. And so this big piece of blade and plastic will actually get set on a full piece of hide underneath this cutting arm, and it pushes down with about 20 tons of hydraulic force to cut this various thickness of leather out perfectly even with no frayed edges. That's the beauty. If you try to cut it, yeah, it's pretty incredible. If you try to cut a piece of leather just by hand or even with like this, like a little blade, looks kind of like a pizza cutter, you'll get frayed edges. So you really got to cut it with high pressure and a sharp blade. And so you can get a die like this made up another couple $100 a piece. So really the initial cost is why if you're making strops, you got to make them on the scale of hundreds versus, a few here and there. We do try to help some of the wet shaving guys. We make all of our parts available individually. If someone just wants to buy a handle, they can buy just a handle or a piece of linen. So we do have those available for individual cutouts or replacements or extra pieces, whatever. So Sean's sitting here, basically it's like a Lego set. And so he's taking the canvas side and he's attaching a handle. And he's using these small little double-sided screws. They're called Chicago screws. You guys may have seen them. They're these tiny little screws, like a little screw post that goes through one side. And then you have a reciprocating side that goes in and threads into it. So that's what Sean's doing here. And that's just a way to get a real clean, professional look is to use Chicago screws.
Chicago, like the windy screw?
Like the windy screw. There's other ways of doing it with rivets and stuff. But one benefit, as you're seeing with Sean here, it goes together fairly quickly. And again, if you damage your canvas, if you put a stropping paste on and you change your mind or whatever, you can take this apart at home and reassemble it yourself. So it is one benefit of having a screw versus having a rivet that you can't really undo very easily. So yeah, he's already got the handles on. You can see it's a pretty quick process. For a given handle, you actually have two, and they fold together. Here, let me put this laptop down. They'll fold together like this, and you'll put the piece of canvas in between, the piece of leather in between, and you'll screw it at the top to that material. So that's what Sean's doing over here as we speak.
Matt, I'm getting some questions.
Yeah, I can't see. I'm kind of holding the laptop at a funny angle. So yeah, please help me with any questions.
Okay, I'm going to give you the first one that someone wrote. This is from Charlie Hisman, and he writes, or asks rather, can you successfully / adequately strop on any kind of leather? I have a very stiff piece of cowhide that I made into a strop, but I'm not sure if it works well because it has virtually zero flex.
You know, the thing about leather that makes it ideal for stropping is its flatness, and it has a pretty uniform texture across it. Keep in mind, I always use this analogy. I've used it in a video, but I'll kind of repeat myself here. When you're stropping, think of your straight razor edge kind of like a piece of paper's edge. It's very, very thin, but it's also very pliable. It looks sharp. It can cut you. If I try to have it cut you a piece of paper, it's a nasty cut, right? But it can easily just be folded and bended out of the way like a piece of paper can. So to make a sense of what stropping does, it's not sharpening. We'll go to sharpening in a second with Eric, where he's actually going to be using stones to grind away and kind of sand away at the metal. All stropping's doing is trying to take that edge that's been bent out of shape by your hair and snap it back into alignment. So really, the purpose is to have something flat and with an even texture. I've even heard people saying they've used like the Gideon Bible at a hotel or a newspaper, a dictionary, denim jeans. So will your piece of leather work? It could. I would just make sure that it's flat. If you want to try to flatten it out, you can put it under some books and stuff. Make sure it's nice and flat. That's the biggest thing with old strops. And some people say, do you guys do strop repair at Razor Emporium? We have some old strops sitting around. We've repaired strops, but most times the leather is all crinkly and you can never get it flat again, so it's not going to do any good to that edge.
Okay, we have
one
more question.
I've done the whole stropping on my jeans thing too, and it in a pinch it works. Ideally, you want a good piece of nice, smooth material that's going to have some backbone to it, so to speak.
Did you already get that done? He already got that assembled. As we were answering the question, he already got it assembled. So it's a lot like a Lego set. Basically, you connect the screws. I think we have about 13 different screws that hold it together. But once the base components are cut, it's pretty quick to put them together. I think we're going to demo now cutting out a piece with the hydraulic press. I know that's something that a lot of people ask about. This is a really cool machine.
Matt, real quick, I just have two more questions for you.
Yeah.
Two more. Okay. Stephen Davidson is asking, do you know exactly what grade your leather is and from where it comes from?
Yeah. We have 2 or 3 different kinds of leather. We use a horsehide that's from Horween Leather Company up in Chicago. Legendary tannery company, one of the oldest in the country. It's been there since 1905. That's a horsehide. That's one of our favorite leathers. We have an English bridle that we get from a tannery. I believe they're in either Pennsylvania or Ohio, and they are called Wicked and Craig. So this is a cowhide that's been tanned in a process called English bridle to make a pretty nice smooth surface, very slick, kind of light on the draw. And then we also use a latigo, like a maroon latigo like this, and that again is a horsehide, and cowhide, and that is also from Wicked and Craig. If you look into tanneries in the country, there's probably 3 to 5 tanneries left in the country. There's a lot of people that sell leather, but they're not actually tanning it themselves. We buy directly from the tanneries. and we buy only American leather. In terms of pound or grade, we always buy grade A. How leather is graded comes down to the amount of, honestly, it sounds weird, the amount of bites, the amount of barbed wire marks. You got to remember, these are animals, and they're sitting out on home on the plane. They're out, next to barbed wire. The grade A leather is the most smooth, the most even, and it has the least amount of tick marks, flea bites, all that kind of stuff. In terms of its weight, leather is measured in terms of its poundage. It's kind of like paper. If you ever, heard someone say, "Oh, it's 20-pound paper," it's the same way. We buy leather that ends up in the classification of 7 to 9 pound. Sometimes we do 8 to 10 pound. Again, it's not going to be all the same exact thickness. They basically try to grade it down with like a gigantic planer. A bunch of sharp spiraling blades actually try to sand down the backside and get a uniform thickness, but you're going to have some variations. So we use 7 to 9 pound American.
Is that industry standard?
Yeah,
for Strops?
it is. Some people go a little thinner, down to 5 to 7 pound or so. We kind of try to make them a little bit more sturdy, obviously. But I'm going to have Sean here now demonstrate on our press how this works. So this is our pattern here. This is going to be the buckle, as we call it, the buckle, which is the part that is at the top. If you were to see this shape here at the top, that's the shape that Sean's ready to cut out. So it's just a little fold of leather. They call it the buckle.
Okay.
And then I can actually take you to a different angle here. I can cut another one out. You can have a profile image of how this is working. That's as simple as that. It's basically just, this is a big hydraulic ram over here, and it's pulling down with hydraulic pressure, and it brings across this flat plate and smushes whatever you put there.
Where do you want to get your hand in there?
Is it foot controlled?
It operates based off of these two burgundy hand controls. You have to have your hands on them. They actually form an electrical connection with the machine. If your hands aren't on there, it will not go down.
You have to have both hands on it.
Yeah, both hands have to be on there.
So the actual, like, the electrical current travels through your body and connects the two.
Yeah, there's actually a very small electrical current, and then there's this button here on top.
That's cool.
Both.
If you don't have thumbs, you don't get the job then.
Yeah, no thumbs, no job.
Okay.
I'll get another low cut here.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you're picking up the audio. It does kind of rattle the floor when that is operating.
No, that is cool.
Stephen Davidson had an interesting comment over here in the
we're
chat
picking
section.
some up. Yeah,
And it's just,
go ahead.
do you have to tear it out, or is it just clean cut?
No, it's perfectly clean cut, so that's done.
Very good. Nice.
Stephen Davidson had an interesting comment.
And I'll tell you guys, for those of you guys that haven't handled the Strops from Razor Emporium, I got to see all of his leathers at the Big Shave West 2.
Thank you.
And they're fantastic. I'm especially fond of the horsehair, the horsehide, and the English bridle. It feels nice, but those English bridle and that horsehide kind of just
I like to tell people
really
that
nice.
The different grades of leather are kind of like different tires. If you're a racer, you have slick tires, you have off-road tires. Yeah, it's the same kind of thing. You're basically trying to get different kinds of traction with your blades, and it really comes down to preference. I know that some people love the really grippy feel of like you said, David, the horse side, and it really does pull. It's kind of a fibrous material. It'll pull your blade into it as it's working. Some people love that. Some people want more of the slick, kind of like ice skating. They just wanted to go right over the surface and really, fast. So you have English bridle. It's a little slicker. But it doesn't really matter how you do it. It comes down to the technique of getting your blade edge to not be bent one way or the other, but to be trued along its entire length. That's what stropping does. Is it makes it very uniform, so it's comfortable to use.
Excellent.
I hate you. Yeah.
We have two more questions, Matt.
Yeah.
One comes from Justin C. For new straight razor shavers, how many laps would you suggest pre and post shave for linen in leather?
I do like 25 to 40 on the canvas side first. Always canvas first. The reason is it deburrs the edge. If you have a little burr, it'll get that out so you don't scratch up your leather. And then when it comes to the actual leather to do the work, I think a little higher than that, more like in the 40 to 60. I usually do 50. I think is absolutely fine. And we see a lot of customers here in the lobby. Number one thing, guys, is not speed. It is technique. Make sure you have good technique. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It's not like some competition. You don't have to be the barber or whatever. Nice and even technique. That's going to make the difference for a good, comfortable feeling edge.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, one more question.
I usually double my however many laps I do on the on the linen. I usually double that on the leather.
That's a great technique to double from linen to leather. Absolutely.
I think you may have already answered this, Matt, in your last one, but it's another question. This one comes from Darth Razor, and he's asking, how does the draw, light versus heavy, affect the stropping?
How does the draw, light versus heavy? I'm actually going to have Eric answer that question. Eric is someone who ends up practically stropping for a living here because every blade is stropped, and he's used all three of our leathers in the shop, and he uses them obviously every day. I'm going to actually have him answer this question. They're asking how does the different leathers compare to the end result?
The draw on the leathers.
Hey, guys. How are you?
The draw.
Hey. How's it going, Eric?
Oh, pretty good. So I understand we're asking about the different types of leather.
We're actually specifically we're asking about the draw of the leathers. How does the draw of each individual of each type of leather, depending on heavy or light draw, affect the stropping edge?
The truth, what I always tell people is it's kind of preference. As far as the feel of when you're shaving, I don't know if there's a ton of difference. The feel of the different leathers while you're stropping is, I think, where you find the most difference. Like on our Latigo, the red and black strop here, it's very slick, it's very fast, it moves easy. The horse, it holds on just a little bit more, and in my personal opinion, that's what I like. It feels better. It feels like it's not going to get away from you. You feel like you're touching the whole edge. So as far as, what it feels like after stropping, is one better than the other? I don't think so. It's just all kind of personal preference.
Sure.
That's what I generally prefer as well. I've tried a couple different kinds of leathers, and yeah, I like the feeling of knowing that it's contacting everything and that it's.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just me.
Very good. Excellent. So what are you going to be showing us, Eric?
I tell you what, we will go through a stone on stropping. Honing. We'll go through the whole process of creating a bevel on the 1K. And, it pretty much is just that on repeat. So we'll go through it once and, see how it goes.
Before you get too far into this, can you explain to viewers,
the newbies?
What's the difference? The newbies that are new into straight shaving. What's the difference between a bevel and an edge?
Between the bevel and an edge?
Yeah.
It's a good question. Okay, so what I consider the bevel is if you look at the edge, the bottom of the blade, you got a nice shiny part. I would consider the edge the very, very end of that. And we'll actually talk about a few things as we go through this demo about that.
Okay.
All right.
Let's do it.
Okay. So let's see. Make sure we can see here. I've already got our razor intact, and I have got a piece of electrical tape over the spine.
What razor are you working with there?
This is a Rudolph Stylo. To tell you the truth, this is the first one I've seen. It is a beautiful blade. Got to make some nice horn scales for it.
Looks kind of short. It doesn't look like a real traditionally long straight blade.
Actually, it's about the right size. It's probably a little wider than most.
You just have big hands, I guess.
That could be it too.
Those are piano hands.
Yeah, there you go.
So, again, we've got the spine taped. You always want to do that, at least at the beginning. You want to protect the spine, especially on this one. This has gorgeous spine decor on here. So you want to keep that in as good of shape as we can. Now, when starting honing on any stone, the first thing you want to do is lap the stone and make sure the stone is flat, because if it is not flat, it will absolutely ruin your edge and will give you an edge and do bad things. I'm using a DMT diamond plate. This is 120 microns. I use this for almost all my stones, except for a few of the naturals. So you just want to go back and forth on the stones. You can put down pencil marks if you want, and just, end to end. Make sure that all the pencil marks are gone by the time you're done.
What's the noise we're hearing?
Yeah, what is that?
Your train going by?
It will turn off shortly. I'm so sorry.
That's the air conditioner?
Air compressor.
Air
It likes to
compressor,
go
okay.
off from time to time. All right, so once you get the stone nice and flat, there we go. Sorry, fellas.
It's okay.
Once it's nice and flat, this gets really boring, but it's basically all there is to honing, really, is right here.
Coming up, what stone are you
forward.
using right now?
Right now, this is a 1K.
Okay.
This is the stone I always start with.
Chaucera?
Yeah, this is a Chaucera stone here. After the
Thanks,
1K,
James.
I go to a 3K, then 6K, 12K, and I finally finish on a 20K.
What kind of pressure?
And what's
are
the
you
pressure you're using right now?
High
The
pressure,
pressure
low pressure?
right now is almost just the weight of the blade, maybe a little bit more, but
Okay.
not applying a hard pressure at all. And just going back and forth with that. You do want to rinse off the slurry here. The longer you go, little pieces of metal can come off from the honing, and that can jump up and scratch the blade. So you want to keep your stone pretty clean while you're going through it. Clean the slurry off of the razor there. And back to it. And this is the stroke you want to use most. It's just back and forth. You want to make sure you're touching the entire blade on the stone from hill to toe and all in between.
It's interesting to me to see
Eric,
the different techniques, because I've seen some people, like I watched a video of a YouTuber do it, and he was basically just taking the blade and rubbing it lengthwise on the stone.
Really?
To get
There's many different techniques that'll work. It's usually just a matter of preference, and that back and forth style is usually to get through it a lot faster. They usually have a set count that they'll go through, and they actually use a little bit more pressure, especially on the lower grits, and it's kind of a way to rush through the process. And it's usually for those honers that already have a set schedule on how they do their honing. They'll do 40 passes like that, and so on and so forth. So they those guys you see do that usually have a set number of passes that they do.
I don't think I've actually ever seen that one. I have seen many different ones. I think two of the big ones are circles. A lot of people do
Eric,
circles.
is Matt nearby?
He's right around here.
Can you have him hold the camera over what you're doing so the viewers can see from the bird's eye view for a
We
second?
can try that.
Because your huge hands are in the way. Sorry.
Bird's eye view here.
I was thinking.
Not of me,
Awesome.
probably of the work here.
There we go.
Make the boss man work.
Back and forth.
Yeah, I'll have to send you the link to the video that I saw. It's I won't say his name, but it's a fairly well known guy.
All right.
I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. And there are a bunch of different ways of doing it. And if it works, it works, you know?
Right.
Exactly.
For me, this is the way to go. It's a simple stroke, and it'll get you where you're going in no time.
And do you have a
I
set
go
number
by
of strokes
feel
that
for
you
the
do, or
most
do you go
part.
by feel?
Now, I bet if you counted me, you could probably get pretty close to where I go. I would say setting a bevel, it's probably about 50 laps on the 1K before I check it. And on everything else, it's probably about 20 to 25 laps before I check it. And speaking of checking, that's where we will go now.
Excellent.
So this is one of the key things I found. You can go ahead and set it down there. Looking at the razor, it's so important. A lot of guys will tell you to touch the razor's edge to see how it's doing. That can actually damage the edge, and not to mention put little tiny cuts in your fingers, which will eventually start to hurt like crazy. So, what I recommend is getting a loop, just a little 12K loop, something you can look through and check the striations on the edge. You'll see little lines where you've been sharpening, and basically you want those to become less and less existent as you progress up through the stones. And you'll see guys using microscopes for that and all sorts, and that's well and good, but when you're starting, don't worry about that. Just a loop will do just fine. And even without a loop, a great thing to do is to hold the razor with the edge facing up towards a lamp. Now, when you do this, you don't see obviously too much, but if you've missed a spot, say you've got a frown in the blade and the middle of your blade is not touching the stone, you're going to see light reflect off of that part. So basically, when you hold it up and look at the very edge, that should be so thin that there is no light reflecting off that edge. And I can tell you, looking at this one right now, I need to work more on the toe of this razor because there is light reflecting off the top of the toe right now. There's a lot of different things you need to look for when honing, and I sure can't go through them all. But light reflecting off the edge, that'll tell you something's going wrong and you need to keep working. And if you don't know everything to look for, that's okay. Keep looking and you're going to learn more and more. But always make sure you check frequently. I think we're pretty good on this stone. I mean, you guys get the idea. What you're going to do is basically get this looking good, make sure that toe is fine. And you're going to do the same thing, strokes back and forth, just progressing up, 1K to 3K to 6K, 12K to 20K. And actually the Nanowatt 12K for someone starting, that's a beautiful stone. It's a great spot to end. It gives you a really nice finished edge.
Very cool.
So, how do you go about setting the angle for the edge compared to the spine of the blade?
Most times, that piece of tape, you're just going to sit it flat on the stone. That does bring up a good point, though. That is mostly for a hollow ground blade. If you have a big wedge chopper, you're going to scratch the sides of the wedge if you do that. Right. So you want to build up that spine. You want to put maybe 5 or 6 pieces of tape along the spine. That way, gives you a little safety net there, and you're not ruining the face of the blade.
Okay, so depending on the thickness of the spine, a straight razor may have technically a different angle on the blade from razor to razor.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And honestly, that's kind of eyeballing after a while. You see the ratio of where it should be once you've been doing it a while, but it's hard to explain other than just
explain it right now. Come on.
Nice. Okay, any other questions, guys, for Eric? Let me just check the question box real quick. Someone's asking Eric, Stephen Davidson, what are your thoughts on doing circles and X strokes?
X strokes are great. Basically, if your stone is smaller than your blade. Right now, my blade fits just fine on the 3-inch stone, so there's not a lot of sense in me doing X patterns. Let's see, I've got one here. Now, if I were using something like this,
Yep.
I would want to do X patterns just to touch all the blades. Kind of same thing with stropping. If you've got a 3-inch strop or a 2-inch strop.
Gotcha.
Just not to mention there, Eric, just additionally to add to that, typically when you have a smiling blade as well, smiling blade will usually require X strokes in order to get that the bevel nice and even because of the smile towards the middle of it will get a little bit more contact with the stone if you just do those straight on strokes.
Smile, kind of a modified X pattern comes into play for sure. You want to make sure you get that whole edge on there.
Okay.
We had a second part to that. What was it? The X pattern
circles versus X strokes.
Circles. Circles are pretty good for getting out the, say, you're on the finishing stones and you've still got light lines in your edge. Circles can help with that. Personally, I rarely use circles, and if I do, it's just circles down, circles up, and that's pretty much it. Just one lap with them. Some guys have a lot of luck with them. I personally never have, so I don't use them a lot.
So how often, a question from over in the chat side, how often does a person go for a refresh, like so refreshing the blade with like Crocs or anything like that versus a whole full hone progression?
If you're refreshing it on a couple of stones, you can keep that edge forever as long as you do it quickly enough. I'd say if you're just refreshing, say you're using a 6K and a 12K, refresh every 10 to 15 shaves or so.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go much longer than that, you might need to run the gambit starting with a 1K, redoing the bevel all over again.
Okay. So how long, so for somebody that's using a razor like every day, right? Shaving with the straight every day, they're stropping every day and doing a good, 50 strokes on the strop every time they shave. How often would you expect a typical hone job to last?
Shaving every day with the same razor?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. I'd pretty much say the same, about 10 to 15 shaves before it starts to pull and get a little awkward. You might get 20 or more shaves out of it. I should do a test on that. I've got so many straight razors, it's hard for me to even know at this point.
And please do one from a head shaver's perspective as well.
Right?
Love to know that.
Wow. Okay, we have one more question. Do you check the blades for wobble? And if you find one, how do you compensate for that?
Yeah, I'm guessing you mean a bent blade.
I think that's what he means.
There's in some situations where during heat treat, the spine will tweak a little bit. So it's not uncommon, especially with the any straight razor, especially like custom blazers after heat treat, it will tweak a little bit. Usually they'll use a rolling X
kind of a twisted blade in there. It depends on exactly what is wrong with it. You can try and work down the spine a little bit. I've actually put some in vice grips and bent them back that just were completely bent. That's really tough to fix, actually. It's hard to get it straight enough for an edge to really work well.
Mm-hmm.
For a beginner, that's going to be tough to figure out, to be honest. Yeah, it's tough for me to figure out.
What's your favorite finishing stone, Eric? And is there a standard minimum? Is there a standard minimum grit for your finishing stone? Two-part.
I would say the standard is probably the 12K, and more specifically the Nanowatt 12K. That's the one I see in more places, and it does offer a great finish. Here, I love to go to the 20K. Yeah,
Super
the Nanowatt
Stone
12K
or-
Super Stone.
Oh, shit.
But yeah, here we finish on the 20K. It's the Goki Yuma, I think. Yeah, it's a Severo.
Sahiro?
20K, it's beautiful. Just leaves a wonderful edge. Reminds me a lot of many of the Japanese natural stones and whatnot.
So if you went from a 12K to a 20K, like would you expect a blade that's been finished with the 20K to last longer than if you just finished with the 12?
No, not so much at all. In fact, you're finding it out and getting a little thinner. It might not last as long, to be honest.
Okay.
I doubt there's a big difference in that, but you are, thinning out the edge even more, so it's a little more delicate.
Okay. That's interesting. So if you were recommending for somebody who was wanting to keep their blade fresh, not necessarily redo their own honing or anything like that, like a full-blown thing, but just keep their blade fresh. I've heard of some people recommending the Crocs like on a plank of, I mean, I have a plank of balsa wood that just has some Crocs paste on it. Doing that, or would you recommend actually getting into a 12K stone or some lapping film, or what would you?
The paste are great. You can, like you said, put it on some balsa wood or something like that. I actually use one of my sides of canvas for paste, and that'll prolong the life of your edge for sure. If you want to get into some stones, I would say a 6K and a 12K, and you'll be good as long as you maintain it pretty regularly. But definitely look into some paste. It's something really easy to do, and it prolongs the life for sure.
Nice. Okay. Hope that answered a bunch. Oh, natural or synth, Eric? What do you prefer?
Natural is more fun, but I do it for work and have to move along through razors, so I use synth. Basically just because synthetics are a lot easier to use, they're a lot quicker. Natural stones are great, but they're harder to lap, they're harder to get flat, and they just take more time. They're not as exact in what grit it is, so it's always kind of a guess until you figure out the stone yourself. Yeah, if you're just starting out, I would say go synth for sure.
Got it. Good. Any more questions you guys see?
There was another one here. Your thoughts on barber hones?
Barber hones? Goodness, I've never actually used one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
There you go, folks.
I've seen some, and I've actually collected some, but I've never used one. Yep.
Okay. Well, now that we're going to be moving into some stropping action, I'll ask you this question that comes from Justin C. And he asks, I know it's common for a new straight razor shaver to roll their edge while stropping due to lack of experience. What stone should you go to first to fix a rolled edge?
Hopefully you haven't done too much damage and you can jump right to a finishing stone. This comes into play. I hate to say it again, probably 6K and 12K should get you done. You shouldn't have to go much further back than a 6K to fix that. And, honestly, hopefully just dropping for a while in the correct way would actually fix the rolled edge.
Excellent. Okay, take us to Stropland.
All right, to Stropland. Yes, come over here, cameraman. All right. So we got a round horse drop here.
Wow.
And I always keep paste on one of my canvas sides. I always do it on the inside. I will typically, once I finish on the 20K, start on said paste side. And I really just do about 5 laps on it. I want to hold it tight, just the weight of the blade, back and forth. And that's all I'll do for that. And then I'm moving to the leather side. I'll probably do 25 to 50. The big thing, especially if you've got a hollow grind, you just want to listen to it. You'll hear that blade sing. You'll hear if you're short, for sure. A little more difficult to hear if it's a wedge, but just want to make sure the edge is flat on the leather and back and forth. Like I said, about 25 to 50 laps, and we should be good to go.
So what strop are you using right now? What's the material?
This is our horse strop here.
Okay.
There you go, David.
Just one of my favorites there.
So do you prefer the D ring at the bottom where you just hold it with your finger, or do you prefer an actual like the leather handle?
I prefer the D-ring. We don't even offer those for sale yet, but we had a couple D-rings laying around, so I threw it on my strap.
It'll be coming soon.
Coming soon.
Interesting.
All right, fellas, any more questions?
Let me look.
Let's see. You left the tape on when you were doing the stropping, but is that necessary?
Good eye, whoever got that one. No, I actually removed the tape before stropping typically. But obviously this blade needs to.
He's nervous. He's nervous, folks.
I don't want to take the tape off yet either. It's got a few more stones to hit.
Hey, when will D-rings be available, Eric? Is there a date?
Is there a date for D-rings? I doubt it. 30 days. He says 30 days.
So
30 days.
months. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, you gave us a date for the Heart of Shaving video, and that was way off.
Any other questions, guys? We're running out of time. We have 10 minutes left. So if you have any other questions which involve stropping, honing, pretty much anything that Razor Emporium covers, now's your chance to ask those questions.
What are your opinions on strop dressings and/or balms?
I'm assuming that's like the paste. I don't know if I've ever seen the balm.
No, they're more for conditioning purposes. They're kind of like it's just a way to soften the leather a little bit.
I haven't tried them.
Okay.
They're really not necessary. You could do it if you like. Usually just a little bit of your own natural oil. Something that I do that actually may sound a little gross, but it's my own shit anyways. Just kind of put your hands on your face.
Nose
and
grease.
use some of those. Yeah, it conditions it, and you'll see that it breaks in your strop better than anything you could buy. Over time, it'll got a softness to it and a pliability to it that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of industry, like that's old school technique. They call it nose grease. Even in photography, you would do that with a negative for different things. But yeah.
Because what happens when you get the neat's foot oil or you get the balms or dressings and stuff, some people go a little too crazy with it, and it's real easy to overdo it and ruin your strop because you're kind of just eyeballing on a little bit of a towel and rubbing it in. So it's very common for you to put too much, and it just really gums up your strop. So that's why just using some of the natural oils.
That work?
That works.
There we go.
Nice. Yeah, well done. We look like the modern village people today, folks. I want Scott to briefly explain why.
There we go.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Now we're getting the band back together. For those of you who don't know, Scott was in a reenactment recently, so that's why he's sporting the beard.
Yeah.
As for the Crocodile Dundee hat, I have no idea where that came from.
This is actually just the hat that I wore during the thing. It was the best wide brim hat that I had.
So, white bread, did you say?
Wide brim.
Okay.
It is actually from. I don't know if you can see that. It is actually from Australia.
I'm sure it is.
My parents brought it back from a trip like a decade ago, and I had it hang around, and it's a good outside hat. So I used it for. I was supposed to look like a pioneer, but I didn't want to buy a felt hat because that'd itch. But
fair enough. I don't care for the felt hats myself.
Yeah.
We got another question, and it comes from Charlie Hisman again to you, Eric. Do you think honing with tape can mess geometry? wearing edge but not spine?
There are a lot of guys that do think the geometry thing, and if you hone it right, they should wear down evenly. As a person who's seen so many vintage razors come in from antique shops and all that, the worst thing I see is when a spine has just been totally worn down and there's still plenty of length left on the blade. It's very disheartening and just makes the blade look ugly. So tape, always tape, protect that spine, keep it looking good. You might get to a point where that edge and that bevel is no longer at the right angle. That's easy to fix. You remove the tape and hone it once without tape. But yeah, I would say for the most part, keep the tape on there, protect the spine.
Excellent. Okay, folks, we are winding down. Oh, David, did you have it? I heard someone make a noise like they had a question. No? That usually that noise indicates.
I didn't say anything.
So thank you all for joining us today, and thank you for those who have taken the poll too. I was very curious. And the poll today, for those of you who didn't see the option down below, is vintage or modern razors, or both. And it seems like 80% of you folks out there prefer both. I want to see if you preferred one over the other. But so this is and it seems to be growing, 80.76%.
And getting bigger and bigger. Okay.
Yeah. And also, thank you for those who partook. Scott's always talking over me. Thanks to those who partook
all the time.
In the bundle offering too. We put under the offers button. I'm new to bundle offerings of anything. We just typically don't do that, but I thought it'd be a little neat thing to do, and the feature was there. So thank you. I see a few of those came in. And back to questions if we have any more. Okay, it looks like that's it. And we have, anything else we want to cover? We have 5 more minutes left. Does any of you guys have anything new you want to show this week?
How about I throw on Matt? And I'll say goodbye. Bye, guys.
Eric, thank you so much for walking us through that. That was
excellent for having me.
Thanks, Eric. Hey, so something you have to do, Douglas, you've been kind of forgetting about. You're supposed to be the governor of all things wet shave meetups, and you haven't really been updating people on meetups coming up.
So what David's talking about is the Riverside, Southern California Riverside meetup is happening this July 30th, folks. So make that happen if you're in the area. If you're not in the area, buy your plane ticket today and fly out for us because it's going to be killer. We also have happening August 7th, the Space City in Houston meetup, which is going to be really killer as well. I'm going to be at both of these, as well as Seattle ShaveCon happening September 17th. So those are the 3 off the top of my mind that I can remember. So Matt, we're finishing up the show. We're going to just show off some of our new toys we received this week in the next 4 minutes. It's going to be really quick. Did you get anything new, Matt, you want to feature or you want to show?
I wish I could take you to my house where I just got new windows installed.
Oh, what a pain. Anyways, I'd like to show this off really quick. My new Wardonia Bakelite.
Ooh.
I love this razor. These are such cool and close shavers once you get the angle right. I just love Bakelite in general, as you all know. But this baby just came in this week. Very stoked about that. Also, from Joey L. Gabbert, received this refurbished vintage brush with that's the Game Changer knot. I mean, it's beautiful. It's an ever ready, vintage ever ready, and he just sent it to me out of the kindness of his heart because he knows I collect vintage things. And so, if you're watching, Joey, thank you very much, man. I really appreciate this. And it's beautiful. Thank you.
All right, Doug. Okay, I do have a show and tell. It's the legendary black nickel that I showed months ago on the website. This black nickel works great. We've been trying to put a clear coat on it so it actually wears without any kind of problem. So this one was actually Eric donated this fat boy to have black nickeled, and we put the clear coat. And our first experiment has been unsuccessful, where the clear coat has been penetrated. I left a rusty blade in it, and I put shaving cream, and I left it for about 14 days, and it wore through the clear coat and then started attacking the black. Basically, black nickel is a form of oxidation itself, and so it loves water and loves rust and wants to react with both. So trying to seal it has been a challenge. I want to let the entire audience know we're working on it, and I won't let it on the market until it's good to go.
That said,
I have one that you can test
nickel-plated
on.
DOC will be out this week.
What is it?
The nickel-plated DOC.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Finally got this one right, and this will be out this week. So I'm sorry, Scott. What you got?
I was saying I have a Fat Boy that you could test it on.
Yeah, actually,
That's
I have
no
a Fat Boy
problem.
too if you want to keep testing. What you got, David? Well, that's it.
I don't have
Folks.
anything,
This has
man.
been episode 53, a really killer episode in our it's been demo month really, and I want you to all tune back in next weekend for we're gonna have Neil Jagger with us, and
Very cool.
so we're gonna be picking his brain, and we want this to be unique for Neil. He really does an interview. When he does, he gets asked the same questions over and over again. So this is your homework assignment, folks. Think of some interesting questions. Really, let's screw with Neil, but in a good way. So Matt, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for taking us into the behind the curtain and showing us where Strops come from, as well as some tips and tricks on honing. It's been, and thank you to Sean and thank you to Eric as well. It's been a really wonderful episode, a very interesting episode, I have to say.
See, when we asked him where Strops come from, I half expected him to just give us the answer. Well, when a mommy strop and a daddy strop love each other very much.
I left that for you, Scott. And again, thank you all for tuning in, because the platform, the new platform, and there it is. There's the strap. Oh God, the strap on. That one's wearing a strap on. Anyways, but
I've had people ask me. They come in. They say, "What is this for?" And I'm like, "It's for shaving." They're like, "Are you sure it's not for BDSM?"
what's that?
No.
One last question for our audience: did you like and enjoy the new platform, folks? Better than Blab? Better than Google? Do we get thumbs up? Is this going to work out for everybody?
It's very similar to Blab. I think it's very similar to Blab. Just as long as the glitches as long as we don't get no glitches, if it stays a consistent product, I think it's very similar to Blab. Just probably easier to get onto.
Aside
I
from
think we
that,
just learned
the only thing
today
I
that
don't like is I don't like the registration aspect, but I do like, but what the plus of the registration is the emails. But if you find them annoying, folks, you can shut them off at any time, so you don't constantly get these emails. But you get one like, I don't know, every other day or an hour before the show. I don't know exactly, but so there are emails that will remind you that the show's coming up and keep giving you the link to get there. That I don't like spamming people ever, so I'm a little on the fence about that. But I see the logic in it, and it seems to work for some. So thank you. Okay, it seems like everyone's digging this. Excellent. Well, thanks for tuning in, folks. We'll be back next time, next week, episode 54. Spread the word. Neil Jagger will be here, and thank you again, Matt, for joining us.
No problem. Thanks for having us, guys.
Game on.